And now for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. Hey, how are you? I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. And yes, this is Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 383 of This Old Marketing for Friday. That's right, Friday, July 7th, 2023. And with me, as always, as he always is, my pal, my colleague, and a guy who's definitely having a better week than Elon Musk, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I definitely am.
Yeah, good. All right.
As
long as we settle that.
It's been a weird, really, really strange week.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna just start the show with a giant "I told you so." We'll get to that. We'll get to the "I told you so" part.
You got to remember, my memory is not very good.
I see. Yes,
but we can.
Our wonderful audience will remind you. Yes,
the audience is saying that I bet you something, but I don't recall. We're gonna have to. You'll have to cue it up.
I will
for whatever. But first of all, most important thing is you're now a year older.
I am.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Yes.
I hope it was you look fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. It is turning into a bit of a Jubilee week, I will say that. Because of the way that the holiday fell this year, I've pretty much taken the whole week off. So, there's that.
Is this different than normal?
It's different in the sense that the July 4th, it's normal that my birthday, obviously the way that the days change year by year. And,
it's always the same day.
It's the same day. No, but what I'm suggesting is that some days it's on a Monday, the next year's on a Tuesday, and so on and so forth. And so normally when the 4th of July comes and it's, a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday, the preceding week and the week after that is people are working. Yeah. But when July 4th falls on a Tuesday and my birthday was on the previous Wednesday, it's like pretty much I took the 2 days after my birthday off and then took the weekend, obviously, and then the Monday and the Tuesday, because that's obviously the sort of recognized holiday. And now Wednesday, Thursday, nobody's really working because people are still on vacation from July 4th. And so now it's Friday and then we're back to the weekend. So it's an extended week this year than it normally is.
I think that a lot of people didn't have a birthday and did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is why, by the way, obviously we're going to talk at great length today about the Twitter competitor of Threads launching. I think it's genius that they launched it this week because everybody's at home and can play, right? It's one of those things where as it happened last night in real time, you could see everybody sort of on vacation, sort of having the time to sit and spend 2 hours with it.
What's amazing is that we already have our Threads address right here below us.
I know.
As we're recording this. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, all right. Thank you for that. No, that is not my Threads address. That would be my Twitter address.
It's not the same. You have a different.
I do because on Instagram I got Robert Rose. And
Who is Robert Rose on Twitter, and why aren't they like? Well, I was going to say something else.
I tried to get Robert Rose on Twitter. We've had this conversation many times.
Yeah, but it was 200 episodes ago, and I don't remember it. So you're not trying hard enough.
That's welcome to my life. That's what everybody says to me.
We wanted thisoldmarketing.com and we went out and got it. And now we've got thisoldmarketing.com. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Everything old is new again.
Yeah. We'll get to this obviously when we get to the stories of the show, but I will almost certainly be moving. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Okay, I'm fascinated. You're going to move. This is great. Anything else we should talk about besides you turning a year older? And it's just
the one thing we should talk about is you on a mechanical bull. Speaking of photographs from the internet, pics or it didn't happen. We should have pics of that. Maybe sometime during the show you could pick up a a video or a short clip or a
I
picture of
probably
you.
could have. Yeah, I could have put something in. I actually have the full clip of me on the bull and falling off the bull. On Facebook, I shared 3 pictures. I of me sitting on there, very
Yeah.
happy, like
Yeah.
sturdy, and then one of me actually in flight as I was about ready to hit the ground, and then the last one was me on the ground laying there defeated, but in a good mood. But in my ankles are tore up. They don't tell you, you have to sign a waiver when
Sure.
you get on a mechanical bull, and now I understand why. Because I didn't even fall off with a lot of force. I basically just tipped over.
Yeah.
That's how I fell off. And I'm like, I've got all kinds of. I was bleeding. I was absolutely bleeding. But it was
Yeah.
super fun. Just to give you the backstory on it, that we have a big 4th of July celebration every year at the Pulizzis. It's sort of our thing, and we usually do one big activity. And a lot of years it was a water slide. We'd get the huge water slide, put it in the backyard, and then everyone would just have a great time. Now, we can go into a lot of detail about the water slide thing, but I really did not want a water slide because the backyard looks really nice right now. And a water slide destroys everything.
Of course.
Destroys the grass.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. And so
when we were kids, we had the slip and slide, right? You had the slip and slide that you would lay down on the front yard and go slip and sliding all day long as a kid. But you pull that thing up and the yard is just trash underneath.
Yeah.
It's
so
just
that times 100 is what you get with this. And when I say a big water slide, I mean, it's 50 feet long. Or longer than that, I think. Whatever. It's large. It's a large balloon.
Big enough that they have to come assemble it in your backyard.
It takes hours to assemble, and they blow it up, and then the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to do that. My wife was a little bit upset at me because I didn't put my foot down, because we don't do that in this relationship. But I said, if I have a choice, the backyard looks great. I really don't want to do this. And then we were at a festival, I don't know, a month ago or something, and there was a mechanical bull, and we both looked at it and said, that's the one. And of course, my wife, she goes out there and she rented it, and everyone got their turn. Well, I think I was on it 4 or 5 times, just trying to figure out, how can I not stay on this thing very long? I just couldn't understand. It looks so easy.
Sure. This is something that, in Texas, by the way, that's a required class in high school is mechanical bull.
You took that class, so you would be really good at this.
I did, yeah. I don't know that I'm sure I'm not good anymore, but I used to be when I was a youngster growing up in Texas.
You did the whole 8 seconds thing and stayed.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, not expert level, but I mean, certainly.
What's the key? What's the key to successfully staying?
There's two. There's two.
I want to hear this.
So one is to not fight it. In other words, your natural inclination is to keep your balance. And so you want to try and guess where the bull is going to go. So you're trying to keep your balance, but the key is to go just like turn into a noodle. You just turn into a noodle and you just
like
let it go.
Raggedy Ann.
Correct. And then the second is to and this is what they teach you when you're riding horses too, is to stand tall. Don't sit on the bull. You basically stand in the stirrups, and so let there be like a half quarter or a half an inch between your butt and the thing, so that you're basically you're literally riding the bull. You're not sitting on the bull. You're actually standing in the stirrups.
Got it.
And so if you do both of those things well, it doesn't matter which way they turn it or how fast it's going, because it's sort of going underneath you, right? The bucking action is sort of going underneath you, and it's much more stable down at the lower by the stirrups. And so you're just basically, what you're really then reacting to is the turning, is when it turns. So anyway, those are the two keys.
Wow, you should teach a course on this.
I should do a TED Talk.
You should do a TED Talk.
Mechanical bulls. Welcome. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So anyways, those people that are thinking about doing this, here's my review is great for a couple hours. Yeah. I don't think we would necessarily do this again. I think it was amazing. It's like, but it's not, I don't think anyone is longing to do it again.
No, I guarantee you there are some people from your party that have lower back pain today. I guarantee you.
Yeah, there's a couple. Major knee. We've got a major knee incident. The person listening to this will know that I'm talking about that. We heard it pop. It's just There's running might be over. Sorry,
that's no good.
But hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's okay with that person. But
all right.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was our 4th of July.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Mine was much less eventful. My bucking bronco was my elbow moving from the table to my mouth with my glass of tequila. So that was
what
really
was your tequila? Before we move on, what was your? You're a big tequila guy. Not as big as Jay Bear, but you're up there.
I haven't made it a career like Jay has. That's for sure. I did have I had 2 lovely brands of the new brands. Well, not new for me, but they're brands of tequila. One is called Mandala, which it's one of those that comes in a beautiful ceramic bottle and it's shaped like a giant coin. It's a fantastic tequila. That was my sort of fancy gift to myself, if you will, for my birthday. And then speaking of tequilas that Jay Bear actually recommended this like years ago to me, which has become one of my go-tos, which is it's a brand called San Matias. Okay. And they make an añejo and they make a reposado and they make a blanco, and I really love their añejo. He actually recommended the reposado to me, and I tried the añejo and I just fell in love with it. It's fantastic. So that's my go-to tequila for just like everyday stuff. So I had that, and then I had the Mandala for a special 4th of July treat.
That sounds wonderful. We have a lot of tequila
lovely
in this house right now because when Jay did his tasting at CEX, Creator Economy Expo, we had some leftover, and apparently the bottles were lost. We don't know how the bottles made their way to our house.
I see.
Still, nobody knows this. Nobody.
It's the magic of inventory. Whoever does inventory has a special power. That's correct.
Something happened. We told the convention center. I don't know what happened. They just magically appeared, and I can't take them. I can't actually take them back.
No,
because that would be wrong.
That would be wrong. That would definitely be wrong.
All right, shall we?
All right, yes, let's dive into this because we have a lot to talk about this week. Yes, indeed. And for all of you who tweeted at us and emailed us, I mean, it was definitely the tsunami of audience feedback this week. So, thank you very much. We love that. That was so much fun to get so many of your voicemails and so many emails, and before Thursday with the tweets, and then after Thursday, the wonderful threads that we got, talking about this. But anyway, here we go. Pulling the thread. What we'll talk about here in just a minute is that the Twitter competitor is here from our friend Mark Zuckerberg, and it's called Threads. And we'll talk through all of our experience so far because we've both had a chance, as we mentioned, to sign up and get into it. And meanwhile, Twitter is having a very, 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 very bad week and a half. Elon definitely, by the way, Elon's review is in of Threads, and he says this effing sucks. Unclear of whether he's talking about himself or
Twitter. Was he on Twitter?
Yes, he was on.
Talking about Twitter? Was he talking about Threads?
We don't know. We don't know.
It's hard to tell, actually.
The tweet was 3 words, basically, which was "this effing sucks." So. Really unclear.
What was okay?
So many questions, Joe. Really, so many questions. And then, so we'll talk about Twitter and their troubles, including the fact that the TweetDeck is now a blue checked only tool. The fact that they've now got data rates and caps in terms of what both verified and non-verified users can actually see and read. And then, of course, the fact that they are now backtracking on a original policy, which was that it wasn't going to be publicly available if you weren't part of Twitter, all the content, and now seem to be backing off of that stance to say, yeah, you actually can see, and they're doing that very quietly, of course. And then, elsewhere in the social media universe, Snapchat is very quietly and under the radar reporting that they now have 4 million paid subscribers. So there's a subscription model that seems to be really working, at least for one of the social media platforms, at least I'm not on. And then if we get time, We want to talk a little bit about OpenAI and how this last week they got a lawsuit slapped against them from authors. The Authors Guild is now suing OpenAI for scraping, as they said, and using, spidering, as it were, all their books, hashtag all their books, and using that for the learning model for ChatGPT. Then we'll get to our Q&A section. We've got a lovely question from Evelyn this week, and then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I'm going to, I don't know if it's a rant, it's more of a commentary more than anything else on what's going on with ad spending right now and with the waste and fraud. There's a couple of new reports, and I'll mention that that's out there. Just some interesting things that are going on. And then Joe, well, he's just going to rave about Margot Robbie. I think that's just it. Full stop. End of sentence, right?
I think that's all that needs to be said.
Yeah, there you go. So a chock-a-block filled show, as it were.
Let's do this.
Let's
Twitter
get into
2.0.
it. Here we go. Yes, we will actually link to the story in Axios, but I mean, you can't throw a rock and not hit a media company that's covering this. In fact, I was just watching the morning news, my local morning news, and they were all the newscasters were all aflutter about this. Something to talk about basically on the morning news. Anyway, the Axios article opens up by saying Meta is promising Thursday, and they made good on that promise, by the way, to launch Threads by Instagram, the Twitter clone, which is basically presenting Twitter with its most serious competition since Elon Musk took ownership of the company in October. Why it matters is a number of smaller rivals, that includes, of course, Mastodon, and includes Blue Sky, and others have been challenging Twitter since Elon acquired it, but none have really reached the kind of Twitter scale that they have here. Meta's been preparing Threads apparently for several months, as we've reported on this show before, but of course now sped up its launch plans because of basically Twitter committing Harry-Carry over the last few weeks. So there you go. I mean, it's the rest of the story basically goes on to talk about the launch plans and whatnot. But you know, the key here is I got a chance to play with it. I don't know what you think of it so far, but it feels very 2008 right now. I mean, it feels, just like when Twitter launched it, the content is great. There's friends and family. I'm seeing like tweets and, threads and all sorts of things from people that I haven't seen in months on Twitter. So it was fun. I had a good 2 hours of playtime last night with it, and it was just really fun.
Well, I think I joined in late 2007, Twitter, 2008, whatever the case is. It felt very much like, oh yeah, it's clean. First of all, I did not think this was going to happen.
I was going to save that part.
Yeah, I thought for sure that Zuck was just blowing smoke on this whole thing. But if you really look into it now, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the numbers. From what I can gather, it's been 24 hours. They have more than 10 million people that have already signed up for this thing, which is really easy to do.
I mean, you just basically say yes. You say yes. You go to your Instagram account, and you say yes.
Sign it up, and you can port everything over, and you can follow all the people you were following, and you're done. So this is the advantage that Meta has over anything at Blue Sky or whatever. They already have the built-in audience.
Exactly.
It's funny. I was looking
Which was my point, by the way. That was my point.
I know. But here's where, I'm changing. I'm changing. I got a call from a journalist on this about my thoughts on this whole thing.
Why are they calling you and not me? What? First of all, wait a minute.
That's a really good point. Because you have better thoughts than I do.
I certainly have more advanced thoughts than you. I'm not sure that they're better.
I've made a living off of taking your thinking and making it my own.
That's an absolute fact.
I've done pretty well with this.
Very good. All right. Anyway, you had a journalist.
Yeah. Well, but Meta does not have Threads, doesn't have to, nor should they try to monetize this anytime soon. Right. I like the loyalty play as part of another touch point that you have. You're creating a community around there a little bit different than Instagram that you can think about. I want to talk to. Basically, the thinking is if you want to talk to people and have a conversation, use Thread. If you want to share your stuff, your pictures, you use Instagram. But the the big issue that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, or maybe they are, and I haven't paid attention. This is a data grab. I mean,
it's yeah.
It is.
I mean,
it is obscene the amount of things to run away. We're running away from Elon so quickly when it comes to Twitter. We are just jumping into Zuck's lap, and he's taking all the data, and he's going to get it. And what's my I'm going to have a new prediction here. I wanted to run this prediction by you.
Sure.
I looked this up. Twitter has 450 million active users right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those are bots, but let's just take it for what it is. United States users, it says there's about 70 million US users as part of that.
Yep.
I think that by the end of July, so what's that, 3 weeks, that Threads could have as many or more users than US Twitter users. By the way, Threads is no good in Europe right now. They can't get through
That's correct.
Can't figure out the whole data thing, which is the
they're already they're already having problems with Facebook, right? So
yeah,
they're it's not a surprise here that they've said, well, let's just hold off on that. Let's settle what we're doing with Facebook before we introduce yet another complication to the situation. I get why they're not offering it up in the EU right now, rightly or wrongly from your perspective.
And by the way, as a beta test, no need to do that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Problems, work on. I mean, there's already been. I mean, how many people have you seen in? I was just on it this morning for about an hour, just trying to figure out what's different, and it's not a lot different. But everybody's saying, "Here's what I would like to see in Threads 2.0. Here's the update. I want emojis. I want thread. I want whatever
DMs." Right? Yeah.
So they're, they don't need to come out with that right now. They can come out with it.
They don't. I think your point about it being a loyalty play is the key to the kingdom right there. I mean, they do not. Now we'll see if they can resist the urge, right, to start offering up ad tools on this thing. But I think because guess what? The first thing I did this morning once I started to see the reaction, the traction, it's got a lot of hype right now. And even Adam Mosseri from Instagram obviously has said, hey, listen, it's, there's a lot of hype right now. This wave's going to die down. So just, everybody take a breath. Right. And that's true. I mean, the hype will die down over the next couple of weeks here as sort of the early adopters, meaning you and me and basically the people that we associate with. Yeah. So, if you look at Instagram's total audience, which I forget how big it is, but
2.35 billion.
There you go.
Active users.
There you go. So they only need to get, a very small percentage of that to say yes, basically, to come over. And then very much like Twitter, it will be the 80-20 rule where 20% of the people create content and 80% of the people lurk and do those kinds of things there. So it's going to be a small number of people for the foreseeable future who are a smaller number of people who are going to be actually active on Threads and doing things. But your point about the data and the loyalty thing is key, because the first thing I did this morning was to go and purchase the Meta verified thing, because it was like, yep, now, because I see everybody with their Threads little check. Yeah. And I'm like, I want my check, because I don't want people to take away or have these, sort of spammers, which are basically running rampant a bit on Instagram right now. And we've talked about this on the show. Sure. So now, as Instagram sort of elevates its profile a little bit with the addition of a new service called Threads, and Threads has a separate interface where you can actually, because my Instagram is really for my personal stuff. Like, all I do is share like vacation photos and stuff like that. But Threads could be a Twitter replacement for me. So I can go do business stuff on there and then occasionally put in sort of my stuff from Instagram. So I can keep those two. You have a choice, right? You can keep them completely separate, or you can actually integrate them completely. But the data play there is that now guess how my Instagram feed starts to be manipulated just a bit by my usage of Threads, right? So I'm going to start seeing more business content, already seeing it, right? If I go on Instagram this morning, I'm already starting to see the people or content that is much more akin to my followers on Threads than I am ever before. So you can already start to see it affecting the way that content is going to be displayed, which only gives incentive for more people to sign up for the subscription because it's a better product, a deeper product, a stickier product, and B, the ability for people to have either one social network that they, like you say, put your conversations here, promote your photos there, or both, right? So it was always, I think, and it's such an easy move for them that it was a no-brainer to do this because it's just the audience is there for the taking.
Where I had it, I hate being wrong.
Yeah.
I hate being wrong, but where I had it wrong and what I said, which I stand by, the Twitter business model is terrible. Why would Meta want to take the Twitter business model? But they aren't. And if they don't, it's beautiful, right?
That's right.
You could just consider it a data play, loss leader. They don't ever have. That's the difference. Is Elon has to monetize Twitter. Whatever. They do not have to monetize Threads in any way. They could keep it this way forever.
That's right.
Completely free. Come on in. It'd be like a gateway drug for some people into the other platforms.
Think of it like this. Think of it like Disney Plus. Right. The goal is to ultimately get you to subscribe to Disney Plus. One of the shows that they put on Disney Plus, let's call it Threads in this case, could literally be a loss leader. Right. It's just another programming element of the overall broader subscription product.
That's right.
So they only need to now. We'll see. Again, I think it's all TBD because Meta's not known for their, let's just say, discernment. And so there's a lot to unpack here as we start to get into this, including data and privacy, which is already starting to be covered in some of the more mainstream media outlets to say, well, the data stuff that, behind the scenes here is pretty icky. And we'll see if they have the discernment to not immediately start to throw targeted advertising at it or something like that, because you can see the salespeople at Instagram frothing at the mouth, saying basically, "Hey, here's another set of digital real estate that we could go sell."
But you got to remember too, and if you watch Social Network, this was a critical part of the movie. Zuckerberg said, "No, we do not want to monetize this yet." I mean, how long did he didn't want to monetize it ever? He's like, no, we got to keep it cool. We want to keep growing. The last thing we want to do is put an ad on this thing.
Yeah.
Of course, later down the road, Facebook became what it is, but he does not have to do this so he has that in his DNA, if you will. The one thing I wanted to get your take on, when you were signing up, it said to join Threads. Did you read the little thing on the Fediverse?
I did read that. I thought that was interesting.
Just to throw this out, I took a picture of it so I could read it. Future versions of Threads will work with the Fediverse, a new type of social media network that allows people to follow and interact each other on different platforms like Mastodon. I just thought that was fascinating. If this could be something that brings it all together and
it's interesting, because by the way, you can also cross post already to Twitter. Like if you want to use Threads to post to Twitter, you certainly can do that. But
how long is that going to last?
We'll see how long.
Elon's about ready to say, you can't link at all.
That's right.
No Threads posts over here.
That's right. Right. Christopher Penn had a great post on this last night on Threads where he said, hey, you better go update your bio with your Threads ID on Twitter so that people can find you. He said, and we'll see how long that lasts before the man baby basically blocks that. But it's such a great point that if they can actually, and we will see again if the Fediverse takes off, but both Blue Sky and Mastodon purport themselves to be, Fediverse friendly, as it were.
Yeah.
Mastodon certainly more now than Blue Sky, but we'll see, if that starts to take place. But if you can start to interact, right, with people on your own private Fediverse, in other words, your own private server on Mastodon, for example, where you have maybe a community or something, but you can actually see and interact with Threads, that will be a really interesting evolution of where social media can go.
Yeah, so just wrapping this up.
Yeah.
It's been 24 hours, so let's not.
That's right. Yeah.
Crazy gaga because What didn't we feel the same about Ello or something at one time? Or
No, we did not feel the same about Ello. We did not feel the same about Ello.
A lot of people did. They're like, oh, it feels like early days social media. Yeah. So the only thing that I've
clout is the thing that I think is probably the closest to the buzz that this has gotten.
Maybe, but I think that what we've really learned from this whole thing is that Twitter's renewed valuation from whatever it was, 20 billion from 44 billion is even worth less than that.
It's going to be a rough week.
Yeah. I mean, what was the developer meeting? So Zuck gets in a room with the developers and says, okay, don't overthink it. Just create a basic Twitter, but we call it Threads. Done.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't think this is, I think contrary to what seems to be popular belief, I don't think this is Zuck at all. I think this is all Mosseri. I think this is Mosseri having a good time.
It's fine, but if I see any more of his videos where he's laying in bed, I can't take it. I'm totally blocking that dude.
Oh my God.
Come on, man. Like, it's totally staged.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to come off as it. That's the worst type of photo.
I know. The lighting is just too good in the whole thing. Yeah.
Don't go there. Don't do
That's very funny. Well, speaking of no good, horrible, bad weeks, Twitter. We'll cover a couple of different things here on Twitter having a bad week, because it was like the perfect storm of time to launch this. But basically, the first thing is that they've quietly backtracked. So they announced this idea that they're going to pull access from Google to be able to spider the results of Twitter, as well as users to be able to see any Twitter content at all. But basically, very quietly in the last few days have backed off of that. And this story coming to us courtesy of Engadget, on this. But there's also the rate limits, which also happened over the last week and a half, where Elon came out and basically said, well, if you're a Twitter verified user, you can have, I'm going to get these numbers wrong because they keep switching every day, 1,000 tweets or 600 tweets or 6,000 tweets or 600 tweets. And if you're verified, you can see a lot. And if you're unverified, you can't see very much at all. They all seemed relatively high to me. And it was like, basically, if you're looking at 1,000 tweets a day, you probably need to get outside and see some sunshine. But otherwise, people were up in arms about that. The one thing that I know a lot of people, especially in marketing, were really upset about is that now TweetDeck is a blue check only tool. And so pulling that behind the blue verified, trying to give some sort of value for buying the subscription and getting a blue check and basically only making TweetDeck available is really angering a lot of people that utilize TweetDeck for their business and for a lot of what it is they do. So it just wasn't a good week for Elon all the way around.
This happened relatively quickly, but remember how Mark Zuckerberg was maybe the most hated person in the world, and the best thing to ever happen to him has been Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly.
He just
sucked all the negative air out of the room.
I don't know what the approval ratings are on these people, but it's gone. It's completely diverged, where everyone used to love Elon and hate Mark Zuckerberg, and it's totally seemed to flip. Like, we feel bad for Mark. Oh, he went through this tough time and renaming and the billions that he spent on the metaverse thing, and it didn't work and whatever. And then you got Elon, evil Elon, doing all these things. And now everybody's like, oh, okay, well, look.
I'm not sure how many people feel bad for him. I'm not sure how many people feel bad for him right now. I mean,
No. People do.
Yeah.
There are a couple people.
There are a couple of
folks out there that feel bad for Mark Zuckerberg. He has too much money.
That's not untrue, right? Yeah, there you go. That money. He definitely has more money. I mean, I don't feel like he's, I think it's funny. If you had predicted at the beginning of the year, when everybody was so down on Zuckerberg for having the, very much Don Quixote idea around the metaverse and where that was going, and basically was spending money hand over fist, and everybody was like, that's the dumbest idea ever, don't do it, and he was sort of hell-bent for leather.
Yeah.
But now as he seems to have backed off of that, the stock price has come back quite a bit.
More than come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite
incredible.
amazing. Yeah, and the solid performance that they were always going to have. Basically, they didn't manage the narrative very well. Right? They just didn't manage the narrative of all that very well. And so now they seem to be getting their arms around managing the narrative a bit better about what he's doing and what he's up to, and certainly letting the. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong, and this whole thing was Zuckerberg's idea and all of that. I just don't think it was. I think Zuckerberg has not been paying attention to this at all. I think this was all Adam Mosseri, and basically saying, hey, we could, basically go. I'm sure he got Zuck's permission to do this, but, basically going, hey, listen, this is something we can knock out in a couple of weeks. Let's just do this and see what happens and, run fast and break things. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, we go, oops, we tried, right? But, so I think this was, they're managing the narrative around this a lot better.
Well, I think, I don't know. I think it's Mark Zuckerberg. And he said, let's get back to what we're good at. Let's take people's data and pit humanity against each other. And they're focusing exactly on what they're really good at doing.
Fair enough.
Meta's back, folks. Facebook is back. It's cool again. Although I did ask my oldest child, I said, is anybody talking about the whole Threads thing with the younger population? Or is this just, people that were on Twitter in 2007 finding something new? And they were saying, everybody's on Discord is saying, here's where you can find me on Threads.
Oh, well, that's surprising, actually.
Yeah,
that's actually surprising.
There's a lot. Yeah, I was surprised too, because I was looking. Of course, I don't follow a lot of younger folks on Instagram.
Yeah.
So as I ported everything over, I'm seeing all the same people that I followed for 20 years.
Sure, of course.
So but apparently there are younger folks that are aware that this has happened. So it's quite interesting.
I think that's actually surprising to me to hear that, because I would have thought that this is basically your yeah.
Well, on a serious note, I'm under the assumption that the people that put money into helping Elon purchase Twitter for $44 billion, they're going to have to mark this down again. So when that markdown happens again,
holy smokes,
that's a tragic event. So you could literally make the case that Twitter is worth less than $5 billion from 44.
I don't think you need to make that case very hard. Yeah, it's going to be.
So, but there's some people, I think Fidelity and a couple, whatever, the JP Morgan, I forgot who invested with Elon in this whole thing, but they've already been in there and marked it down to the current valuation, which is, I think, between 17 and 20 billion. You mark that down significantly more, you're at the point where it might be better for Elon and et al. To just shut the whole thing down, sell it for parts.
Yeah, I think that's not unlikely. I think it is unlikely, but not that unlikely.
It's a possibility.
It's definitely
Twitter
a possibility.
Will remain, but the fact is,
I think it's possible that he takes the whole thing over. Right? He basically goes, just let me, stop. He just to avoid the phone calls.
Well, he basically can do that now because Tesla stock has.
Oh, it's just been
again.
Yeah, it's just been on a tear, right? So I mean,
he could literally do that now. He could sell more Tesla. But you know what? Sometimes it's just better to say no. It's like, how much money and concentration does he want to put after this thing?
You're underestimating the ego of that billionaire, is what you're doing. I mean,
this is him. I can't. Yeah. It's hard to believe we're talking about Twitter for it being as small as it is. It's not a lot of people. This does not affect a lot of people in the world.
That's right.
But we talk about it like it does.
That's right. Well, as our friend Jay Baer has often said, with Twitter, it's not how many, it's who.
It's who.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's move on to another story, because we've covered this ad nauseum. But in other social media news, Snapchat, which has very quietly been really running a successful 2023 in the background here, is now set to announce that they've drawn 4 million paid subscribers in the first year of their launch, which is just really interesting. This a story coming to us courtesy of Axios as well, and basically said Snapchat on Thursday, which just got lost in the other news, will announce that its subscription service Snapchat Plus has reached 4 million paid subscribers in its first year. Why it matters, of course, says Axios, is because getting users to pay for social media services that they've grown accustomed to, getting for free is not easy, as Elon has learned about that. Snapchat's showing it can work with the right offering at the right price point, $3.99 monthly. They basically released Snapchat Plus in June of 2022, so ostensibly just over a year ago, as a way to offer its most loyal users access to experimental and pre-released features. 2 months later, more than 1 million users had signed up, and then to date, as they've just announced, 4 million users have been there. In that time, they've launched a couple of more features to the subscription product, including a first look at its new AI-powered chat bot. The article goes on to talk about the big picture here, and basically this, as social networks have reached their maturity, Snapchat may be still, don't count them out. Basically, Snapchat is having a thing at the moment. What do you think? I'm not a Snapchat user, so it's a little hard for me to
I have to
judge
live
this
through my kids, and all I try to do is observe, because I'm an old guy now. What do I know about these things? But they use it like we use texting and messaging.
Right. That's right.
It's a very personal way to communicate, because they're the connections with individuals. Of course, they have these streaks, and you've got to keep the streaks going. And actually, what's funny, because I was talking with my youngest about this happened. I don't know what it was. It was someday wasn't on his phone for some reason, and lost a 350-day streak with somebody, and was devastated about it, and said, "Oh, I would love to have that back," and would pay money, probably buy this subscriber service, this Plus service, to get that streak back. So it's almost like, I think we compare Snap to something like an Instagram, and it's not. It's really that.
It's more a DM.
It's more of a messaging.
It's like WhatsApp.
It's more of a
like
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I think that's where the possibility is there. And also, even though it's much different than TikTok, the beneficiaries of the semi-revolt against TikTok, because of the data or the Chinese ownership or whatever, will benefit Snapchat more than most anybody else.
I see. Think. Yeah, I think that's.
We'll see where it's great. Again, they launched it a year ago, and they didn't come out with a big splash. They just said, okay, here's some additional services for you. And if they come up with some ways to customize your communication one-on-one with other people, which is what people are using that for, it's going to be a benefit.
Yeah, I think, to your point to me, I don't know when it was. I mean, I always bring it up. It's one of my favorite lessons that I've learned in the last decade, really, was, when we talked about the newspaper business, and you very rightly corrected me on the New York Times and the rest of the newspaper world, saying basically, no, they're not dying, they're right sizing, right? And I think in many ways, what we're seeing now in social media, and this includes, by the way, Threads, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they're all getting to right size, right? So they're all the very smaller ones will be niche little networks that do their thing, and Snapchat may just be a niche network that makes money over on the side, and it's not meant to topple Facebook. It's always meant to be to have young people manage their DMs through. And so but basically at some point they grow out of it, right? They grow out of it into something else. And so we'll see, I think is very much the key here. It reminds me very much of the early days, and when I say early days, I mean the decade of cable, the early days of cable networks, where cable networks were very much focused in on a specific demographic, right? They were the content was extremely niche and focused in on that demographic. So you just didn't see the same artists on MTV as you saw on VH1. And all I need to do is name those brands, and you can immediately, from the 1980s and 90s, those brands, what they represented. And of course, that demographic was pure. And the idea was, the marketing idea, and I know this because I worked there, was basically all of those people who become fans of MTV, we just cross-promote VH1, and then they become VH1 fans. And so you just follow them, right? So you start them with Nick Jr., then you get them at Nick at Night, then you get them to Nickelodeon, then you get them to MTV, then you get them to VH1, and you just follow the demographic as it ages, right? So you just follow the whole the cohort of your audience through their, and that's the idea here is that you can build social media networks to be a very similar idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's like Pinterest is a good example, right?
Yeah.
There's a role. Pinterest is some amazing results that they've had financial results lately. So they're making it work, and you don't have to have everybody.
That's
Not
right.
everything has to be Facebook or Instagram. It doesn't have to be the big, we're social media for all. You can fit these little things. And Twitter's shown that for a lot of years, it worked really well. Now we've got, Threads only has to do a small portion of lifting for Meta. Doesn't have to do the whole thing. And it's Snapchat. I mean, it's funny because I've been a Snapchat shareholder for a long time. This is not a financial show, by the way, but I've been a shareholder of Snapchat for a long time. And it really, it did fantastically well. I don't know if you remember. This is back in 14, 15. Remember, I hated Snapchat. I'm like, sure, it's going to go down. It's going to go down. And it did. And it totally plummeted. And then when it went down to a couple bucks, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is definitely coming back. And it did. And then it went down again. And right now it actually looks really interesting as an investment because I think they've cut out the fat. They know what they're focused on. They're focused on this to your point, this demographic, and they're going for it. And I think it's theirs to take. Yeah. So, and
it stops being a growth stock and it starts being a value stock at some point.
It's like Snapchat is value stock. It's like buying, General Motors or something. Exactly. Like that. Well, that's a bad example, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're going to skip the last story for time here because we need to get to our Q&A. We have a wonderful voicemail that was sent to us. We had a number, by the way, this week we had a number of voicemails. So thank you for that. Always great to get your updates. And you know who I'm talking about out there. If you know I'm talking about you, your updates is always wonderful.
Keep them coming.
Keep those voicemails coming. We really, really love them. Love hearing you, the dulcet sounds of your voice. And so this one comes from Evelyn Hoover, and Evelyn has an interesting question from our last episode, their special episode. So maybe we can play that.
Here we go.
This is Evelyn Hoover. I'm with MSPC, an agency based in St. Paul and Minneapolis, and was listening to last week's podcast, which I loved, by the way. And during it, Robert talked about upping the game when it comes to email newsletters. So I wondered if you had specific advice for how to do that or what things to consider if someone is contemplating changes to their email newsletter. So look forward to hearing more and love the podcast.
Thank you, Evelyn. Since this was it was one of your keys.
Well, was it?
To our special episode.
I think it was you that actually brought it up. That was the idea of email newsletters. Yeah, because I went back and
Did
actually.
I steal your idea again? Is that what I?
No. I think you got on a tear because we got another question that was just. Interesting, let's put it that way, about this whole email discussion we had, which I was like, really? Did we say that? And I went back and actually listened to the show, and we didn't say that.
We didn't say it.
But it was one of your things to pay attention to, which was sort of how email is evolving, right? The idea of email is evolving, and we talked about how, like in 2011 and 2012, everybody had a blog, and now everybody has an email newsletter. And you were basically saying it needs to be great, right? It needs, if you're doing an email newsletter, it needs to be great. And I think her question is basically centered on that idea of, okay, well, what does that mean, right? Because I talked about the idea of email, the addressability of things evolving, and what does email even mean now? And I think so. My take at this is that the two things that Evelyn touches on in her question, which is, from a B2B perspective, I think we're a ways off, right? I think the thing to pay attention to is how email is evolving as an addressable idea. I don't think it's going away. I don't think it's dying, by the way. I don't think email is dying as a technology, but it's certainly, as we can see, beginning to evolve with filters and auto responses, and AI is only going to have an effect on that about how we organize. Already, I can, my Outlook inbox does an amazing job of automatically sorting email by things that I want, things that I interact with, and it automatically does that based on my consumption of the email, and it's pretty darn good. So I think that evolution of what that even means is a key thing to how do you stand out in the inbox, right? How do you actually stand out in someone's habit of what they do? And from a B2B perspective, it's a little different, right? Because it's not our personal email address. It's not our Gmail. It's not typically that. It's going to be some sort of corporate email situation for the most part. And so I think that gets to the second point, which is how do you be great? Is that you've got to find, this is my own personal, and by the way, I'm struggling with this right now. This is a big question that I struggle with in our email that we send every week, which is how do you not just copy someone, but yet offer something that's entertaining as well as informative and useful, but also in a way sort of that stands out. In other words, the headline, the subject, you're from. I love what Ann Handley says, and Michael Barber also talks about this in email marketing, which is the from is much more important than the subject line, and so there's so much to think about when it comes to how you create content that stands out in that sea of noise. I think the best thing that I have found so far, anyway, is keeping it really simple, but just a disproportionate amount of value versus talking about the company or the whatever it is, even to the point where you're offering value on things that are outside the brand or the product, et cetera, right? Trying to figure out what an email publication looks like so that it delivers value that's completely orthogonal to what the product or the brand is, so that your main objective is to keep that audience engaged and subscribed and wanting to see your email. Because then when you occasionally do mix in the interesting product or brand message, it can work better. I know that's not a terribly great answer, but I think it's one that honestly we're all learning together.
Well, I think some of what you said talks to, is this email vehicle unique and differentiated among everything else that's out there?
Right.
I mean, when we go into corporations and we look at their email strategies, most of them are terrible.
Of course.
It's generally abstract link to stuff that's they already doing. They're everywhere. So I see the value there. It's like you're sending this to a customer or an audience and like, yeah, so you don't have to sift through all the stuff. Here's the 5 articles this week, or here's the video or whatever. And I think that type of email is going away.
That's right.
I think that your email in and of itself has to be, wow, you're going to deliver something that they can't get anywhere else. And you're right. It's a big struggle.
That's right.
That in my Joe Pulizzi newsletter, we struggle with it with the tilt. Can we give something of unique value to focus on what that audience's outcome is? What do they really want? How can we make their life better, their job better in some way? And that the email has to do that. It can't just be an also ran. And I think most organizations treat it that way. Oh, okay, email, whatever.
Well, they treat it like it's the news about us, right? They treat it like it's the news, So in other words, what you can make the assumption that any audience that wants to hear the news about you, your brand, has basically already gotten it. In other words, if they're interested in that, they've already received it and they already know the news. They've either gotten it in an update that they subscribe to via search, or they've gone out proactively and searched it and learned it. So you reminding them of your latest new employees or your latest product release or your latest thing or whatever that B2B brand is, doing typically, which is usually on demand and basically it's thought of at the last minute. It's like, who's got news? Well, let's talk about the latest case study. Great. That's a bullet point. Who's got news? Oh, let's talk about the new VP that was hired. That's great. We actually, we went to a trade show. Great. All that stuff is already known by the audience that cares. All you're doing is sending news to either people who don't care or already know about it and don't care.
Well, that's I think it's so important that you separate the corporate news from the content brand.
Exactly.
And that's where most corporations don't. They treat them as the same thing. Oh, it's email. We can talk about all this stuff. No, you can't. You should not be talking about unless that's what it's for. And they particularly describe for updates from XYZ company. And that's what they want. No, great, if that's what they're going to do. But you have a different content brand and a particular audience and a different editorial mission for this newsletter product. So figure out that. And maybe that's, this is really getting down to basics, but you have to figure out, okay, this newsletter, who is it going to? Who is the persona that this goes to? Mm-hmm. What are their informational pain points? Oh, and what's the editorial calendar that goes along with that? Treat it like you're a media company. Duh. Right. Just keep going to that way. The other thing that I would just say from a promotional thing, and then we'll get on to the rest of the show here, is people that are on using email subscribe to other emails through that same format. They'll say, oh, I saw this email. Okay, they're promoting this email newsletter. I'm going to get it that way. If we started talking about somebody else's podcast, that's a good way promotion tool. We're on a podcast talking about somebody else's podcast. So once you have a differentiated, really valuable newsletter, then you figure out, oh, okay, where's my audience hanging out? What other newsletters do they subscribe to, engage in? And that's where you'll want to work on partnerships and referral deals with those people. Make a list of 10 to 20 where your customers or your audience is hanging out, and do some deals where, hey, I'll promote yours if you promote mine, and that's where you'll lead to new subscribers. And if you're a YouTuber, what do? You get on other YouTube shows. It's the same. It's the same thing. You don't necessarily say, I'm going to promote my email newsletter on my YouTube channel or my Instagram. Well, not generally great. Not generally a great way to do it.
Exactly. All right, Evelyn, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Evelyn.
I know it was a little obtuse, the answers there, but
you should, Evelyn, you're going to get obtuse answers from us.
Yeah, you're going to get nothing but obtusity.
Keep them coming.
Yeah. Obtusity. By the way, we've gotten so many tagline suggestions that use the word journalism, which is just, I don't know, my inner 17-year-old just like, anyway.
Was it journalism? Is that what that's what it was. What I said?
No, I said it and you made fun of me for saying it.
I said.
Yeah.
Get out of the room. Stop journalism.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Anyway, let's get to our rants. Let's get to our rants and raves section. But before we get to rants and raves, I do want to remind you that we have basically a wonderful website at thisoldmarketing.com where we've got the video version of this show. We've got or links to the video version of this show, which of course you can see on YouTube. You can also subscribe, by the way, to Joe's Tilt newsletter and My Little Experience Advisors newsletter, which goes out now weekly. We're on Substack, so we're excited about that. And then you can also, of course, enjoy the other 382 hours of chuckle-headed goodness that we try and offer each and every week. By the way, we didn't settle the bet, but there's some sort of settling of the bet that we should have here at some point.
What did we bet?
We didn't. We didn't really. I mean, we just sort of bet.
I already said that I was wrong. How much? I mean,
how much more do you want
that
from
I
me?
admit defeat.
Exactly.
What do you people want from me? I'm
oh
already
my
down.
goodness!
I've fallen off the bull.
That's
many
right.
times.
That's right.
What do you want me to do? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I want you to go first. Rave? Yeah, you do, because
I need to put this up on the screen just because. It's,
why not? Why wouldn't you?
Robbie.
Yes,
and it's been covered by this is insider, but it's been covered by many, and that the new Barbie movie is coming out. Are you going to see this, Robert?
I totally am. I'm so I'm oddly excited for it. Because it looks funny. It looks great. It looks like a great movie. I can't wait.
Maybe it's because I love when people commit to an outfit and it's part of their marketing. Of course, me in orange. I wear orange everywhere. I've got orange on now. That's my color. And Margot Robbie has been wearing her Barbie outfits, like officially themed like Barbie outfits, all over to all these press junkets, which I think is fantastic. So just going through, and I'll put it in the show notes where you can see her different outfits that she's been wearing. But I think it's fascinating. I wish that more actors would do this when they're promoting. I want to see Indiana Jones with the hat and the whip instead of coming out as an old guy. Nothing wrong with that. He just
yeah.
I would just rather see him like totally dive into it. And the fact that she did that, I don't know if they asked her to do that or if she just made the decision, but it seems like everywhere she goes, she has a Barbie outfit. It's probably spurring on additional sales or whatever the case is, but it gets people interested. Of course, they're covering it. They're covering the fact that she's in this movie. She's wearing all these outfits. I wish that who's playing Ken?
It's Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Of course, Ken doesn't have much to work with, so I guess it would be a little bit harder.
Oh my!
The button down and the short shorts or whatever Ken wears. But the Barbie outfits, I like. I don't know if you agree with that kind of marketing, but
I do.
I'm 100%.
I mean, there's so much we can learn from the way that media companies, especially when they do it well, the way that they market a movie, because they almost exclusively do integrated content, right? They do integrate because that's what they've got. That's really what's there. And so, there's no buy now to a movie, right? I mean, so you've got to get people interested. So it's almost always about, make the trailer entertaining, do entertaining interviews, do entertaining events and stunts. It's all about integrated content that sort of goes beyond what the actual movie is. And so how do you do that? Well, you create great content, and of course that's what they're good at. So it's like that. There's so much for us to learn about that, which I think is really the point.
It's just, I don't know why I just thought of this, but I mean, I don't know if you go to a July 4th parade, but every year we go and we sit and so we take the family. We got a whole group of about 20 adults and kids, and we go and watch the parade. And this year, as in almost every year, there's judges and council people and whatever, and they're all running. And generally, they all do the same. They're just walking in a group. They've got their colors on and their shirts, and they hand out candy. And everyone does the same. And this year, there was one in particular that was riding the councilman was riding a big wheel and doing all kinds of tricks with the big wheel. This is our councilman. He was doing all these tricks. I'm like, totally on brand for this guy. Wasn't that hard to do. Still giving away the candy and the stuff, but him, I knew exactly who that was. I can never tell like who the person is running because they don't say like I am Judge so and so. I'm like, which one's Judge? It's like everybody's got the same shirt on. So I'm just like, it doesn't take a lot to differentiate, right?
Use your juice.
In this case, like Margot Robbie had the ammunition to do this.
Yeah.
Like I wish in events, it's the same thing. It's like, I know people who like host an event out there and they wear just a regular outfit. Like, can you think about it a little bit? You're putting on this event. This is a really important experience. You have some assets to work with. So why not use them? Be different. Don't do the same thing. Just think about it a little bit.
Use your juice. Use your juice.
You love that line.
I do. It's been a go-to for mine for a long time since it was told to me by a friend. Okay. Very quick commentary, I guess, here. Completely. Well, it's actually weirdly segues nicely from our discussion from the whole show. But basically, this is coming courtesy of a Wall Street Journal article, which the marketing trade group, it's the A&A, by the way, that shows ad spending is rife with waste. The article covers off basically a report from the A&A that shows how much of advertising is bots and false traffic and all that. Basically, this is non-news. Why this is news now is
from 2014.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
What?
That's right.
Okay.
Is amazing to me. I guess the most remarkable piece of this news is the fact that the A&A is actually reporting on it, which they usually are like, well, no, everything's okay here. Everything's, it's the sort of meme. Everything's fine as the house is burning down around them. Yeah. What I wanted to bring up is the interesting thing here is that, any longtime listener of the show has known forever how much I hate programmatic advertising, and this is basically the heart of what the bots and the false traffic and the bad traffic, et cetera, is around this. And this is something I actually wrote about for CMI, and without seeing this article, by the way, this week, because the other news that came out this this last week, was a NewsGuard. Basically a reporting software company that looks at newspapers and the sort of industry there. And what they found was that there's AI is now being used to generate fake news sites where a lot of this programmatic advertising, so they're automated sites. They're basically automated creating content and they found more than it's basically gone up astronomically. They had 100 and they had 49 a year ago. They now have 217 sites in their database now that are just
these are
automated.
Like media sites that are all
correct, all AI driven, basically
AI-driven
automated news, and there's programmatic advertising served alongside it. Sure. So basically, it's a get rich quick scheme to try and scrape content, put it out there in an automated way, rank for search, get traffic, triage or arbitrage the traffic and make money, right? And so here's my point of all of this is that, so there's a whole thing that we could talk about with programmatic advertising and why that's problematic and why it's only going to be made worse, not better, by AI. But the key that I wanted to bring up for this audience and for us is that you can see it happening now. And, there's the famous trope that, marketers ruin everything. Well, this is marketers ruining, sort of the AI sort of content creation thing with these fake news sites. I guarantee you in your industry, whoever you are, whether you're an individual content creator or whether you're a big brand in marketing, the content sites, the FAQs, the giant, a content hub around your particular industry driven by AI, it's coming. And it will be coming as fast and as furious as these news sites are. News is easy. News is simple. The industry is going to be a little more difficult because it's going to take a little more effort for them to put together. But mark my words, within the next quarter or two, we are going to see this. And so start thinking today about how you're going to counter that. And think about your paid media spend and where that money is going, and really reconsider your programmatic spend because it's just a giant waste.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what the time period is, but we're not that far away from 90% of all content created out there is going to be AI generated.
Yeah, that's
computer
true.
generated in some way.
That is true.
So yeah, you really now is the opportunity to find your story, right?
Yeah,
find
exactly.
Your story, build your
this
content
is my point.
brand. Yeah, absolutely. Look at that, because if you don't, there probably is a window right now to take advantage of that, but
that's exactly right.
No, it's going to be more and more difficult. So
yep, there you go. The only way to fight it is with fire, right? So
story fire,
juice, ooh,
juice fire, story, juice.
Somebody right now is going to GoDaddy and finding out if storyfire.com is available.
You need a hat. You need, you know how you used to wear your Harvard hat all the time. Yeah. You need like a just that says juice.
Juice.
Need more juice.
Juice.
Find your juice. Lean into
Use
your
juice. Use your juice.
Juice.
Oh my God.
Okay.
All right. What do you
got going on?
I have work this week. Basically, well, I'm going to enjoy the weekend, of course, but then next week it's back to work and some good stuff there. We're clamoring along here in the summer and things are great. So yeah, just back. It's really back to work. How about you?
Good. We have our big family and friends weekend this weekend where we go and we get a house and we hang out and may have a few beverages here and there. But it's a really good time, and we've been doing it for quite a few years. So really looking forward to that, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, next week
at some point next week, and do
maybe
it all
we can
again.
Maybe we can start asking for story ideas on Threads. There you go. I don't know. Thank you all for the wonderful, wonderful attention that you give us each and every week. We really, really do appreciate you, no matter if you're on Threads or Twitter or LinkedIn or here on our wonderful little show. So thank you for that. And we will see you again next week. And before we see you again next week, just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.